Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the Follow Your Stuff podcast. I am Kevin Sylvester.
And I'm Michael Hlinka.
And we are the co-authors of this book. We also wrote the book Follow Your Money, which is about where the money goes when you buy stuff, and Follow Your Stuff is about where stuff comes from. And we take a look at a very tricky concept. I would say one of the trickier concepts in the global economy for all sorts of layered reasons, which is the idea of the pharmaceutical industry.
Yes.
We talk about puffers, but it could have almost been any medical product. Okay, here I guess the question I want to start off with is, we pay money for medications. So I guess we should start at that point. Why do we pay money for medications? I know this is maybe even the central question. Balancing healthcare versus profit, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at.
If we didn't pay money for medications, or if there wasn't some compensation somewhere for the people who make those medications, no medications would be made. That's why we pay money for medications.
Okay.
Because when we live in a market economy, as we do, well, really, there's a couple of ways that we can create value in an economy. One of the ways we can do is we can do it coercively through a system like slavery, and nobody wants that. Mm-hmm. The other way that we can do it is we can do it in a more kind of cooperative model. And what the cooperative model requires is for people willingly to give their time and effort in order to make something happen. And in order for people to to voluntarily step up and spend their limited time on this planet to make medications, they have to be compensated for it. And that's why we pay money for medication. That's why we pay Big Pharma what we do.
So how do we balance how much is justifiable then? Like it's one of the things that was interesting when we were writing the book was how much you pay for even the puffer. How much you pay is so determined by where you live.
Yes.
Why is there such a disparity for the same thing?
Well, partly that really has to be discussed a little bit in the context of insurance, because the insurance system in the United States really distorts things and really changes what normal market forces would be. So I think that's an important consideration. But I think the point is sort of well taken. We could say, for example, why would a puffer cost $60? My guess is that if you went to a country in, say, Latin America or maybe a country in Southeast Asia, it would be far, far less than that $60. Well, it's to a great extent that in any market economy, what is charged is what the market will bear. So there's supply and demand, and there's a particular demand, and given that there's a demand and given what people can afford, puffers are very, very important. And if people can afford to pay $60, they will pay $60. If they can't afford to pay $60, maybe they can afford to pay $10. Well, that could very well be the price point in other parts of the world.
That's interesting. So why isn't there, or maybe there probably is, like a big black market economy of people selling meds that they buy in cheaper countries to places where it's more expensive?
Oh, that happens right now quite a bit in North America. Oh. So, for example, there's a market where people get drugs from Canada into the United States, and that exists right now to a great extent.
Ooh. So how do people combat that? Like, how would you stop that? Or is that in your view of the world, and we don't always agree, we've pointed that out before, in your view of the world, that's how the market's going to fix that problem, maybe?
Well, the problem is, in fixing that problem, people are breaking the law. Now, just because the law doesn't necessarily have to be a moral law or an ethical law, but it is breaking the law when you're doing that. Okay. If you're illegally transporting pharma products from one country to another, that is illegal.
Okay, so one of the things that we talk about in the book, I'm just going to open up our beautiful copy of the book, Follow Your Stuff, to one of the arguments, which is about Big Pharma. And one of the questions that comes up is like the guy Martin Shkreli. This is an infamous case. And what he did, and one of the things we do talk about is the incredible cost that pharmaceutical companies put in for research and development. And a lot of their drugs don't end up working.
Yes.
So those are lost costs that get folded into their successful drugs.
Yes.
But Shkreli, this one made a lot of people angry. So his company actually bought a pre-existing drug.
Yes.
And raised the price from $18 a pill to $750 a pill.
Yes.
How do we combat that? Like that, no one's going to look at that and say that's fair. Or do you maybe look at that and say that's possibly fair?
No, but that can only occur in a distorted marketplace. And the distorted marketplace is a marketplace where you've got, once you have an insurance plan, the insurance plan is basically obligated to buy that. See, the problem that we have in this situation, and this is by the way much more an American phenomenon than a Canadian phenomenon, but it does exist in Canada as well, is whenever you design a system where the end user is not directly responsible for the costs, it is rife and subject for abuse. And that is what's going on right now in the U.S. system.
So in some ways, the way that story is presented is that a person is paying $750 for that pill when they used to pay $18. But really what's happening is their insurance company is being charged.
Correct.
Because they know that that's what they have to
Exactly.
pay. But that's still going to hurt the person who has the insurance because their premiums will go up and there are other...
Absolutely. Oh, no, everyone's premiums will go up. It hurts everybody. There's no question about that. But the problem is the situation here is that, okay, sure, my premiums have gone up, but so have 5,000 other people's premiums. So the premiums have gone up by this much.
Per person.
Per person. So all of a sudden, everybody's being dinged a little bit, but I'm still feeling that, getting that benefit because that really, really important drug I still can get. And that's why I'm really not sort of, squawking maybe as much as I could or I should.
Interesting.
It's a very difficult, whenever you talk about insurance, whenever you talk about the medical system, it's really difficult to design a model where there aren't going to be at least some people who are going to be abusing it.
That is really fascinating. And I would say that's another huge question for everybody who's watching right now to ask yourself, because we all use the healthcare system. We all engage with it at some point.
Well, look, I'm just going to throw something out. This, by the way, was something very controversial, but I have written a couple of books with Kevin and love the collaboration, but I actually wrote my own book once. And really what I suggested was that in a system, for example, like Canada, is that everybody should be responsible up to certain limits for 10% of what they spend on healthcare expenses in a year. And what that would do is then that would give you the person, okay, so now I used to be paying, not $18 for that particular pill. I was paying $1.80. Oh, wow, now I'm paying $75, right? Because it went from 18. Yeah. Well, now I'm going to be pushing back in a way that I wasn't pushing back before. That would put more discipline in the system.
So in some ways it's both a responsibility, but it would almost, you're arguing it would give you a little more power as well. Motivation and power.
Well, motivation, no question, motivation for sure. It would give me motivation as the consumer to push back against this.
Interesting. Now, this actually brings me to one other point we should make about all of the podcasts and also a little bit about the book, which is that we live in Canada. I am American as well. But one of the things we tried to do was say in the book, these are sort of general situations. The money is sort of averaged out about the way it would be.
Yes.
So the concept works no matter where you live. The specifics, especially with pharmaceuticals, obviously changes depending on where you live.
Yeah, there's no question. But I would say that with the vast majority of it, this basically is relevant whether you're living in Canada, US, in Europe. Really, it's just the nature of what happens in an economy, about how stuff is made, how things are put together.
Cool. Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.
I'm Kevin Sylvester, and that is this edition of the Follow Your Stuff podcast. You can find out more at annickpress.com. I'll put all the information up here. And we will have, there are other podcasts on other issues that we deal with in the book. And thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.